Hey guys, and welcome once again to Smite Tactics. My name is Jackarus, and today, well, do I have a deck for you? And that is this Norse deck. And that is a rush deck, an aggro deck, call it what you will. A deck where the main objective is just to kill your opponent very, very quickly. And as you can see, we have a lot of low-cost cards to allow us to do that. Very low mana costs. The highest cost is 4. It's a cheap, quick deck. A lot of people like to play it to try and get your wins, as quickly as possible because the deck is so short to play. And for this deck, you can actually use either leader. You can use Freya or Odin. I'm using Freya because the banish ability can get more useful later on if you don't manage to rush them down. Saying that, Odin works just as well. His ability to give a unit an extra health can sometimes save that unit's life over the course of a turn. Though, generally you shouldn't actually be needing to use your leader's abilities particularly. So like I say, the main goal of this deck is to rush down your opponent, and there's various ways you can do that. So one of the things you're going to be doing a lot is attacking them with your leader. And for that benefit, we have Surtur, or a friendlies gain +1/+0. So everything around the Surtur gains bonus damage. So that's good, dump it next to your leader, dump it next to some of your units. The aura is just really useful. So then we also have, Backstab, deal 3 damage to enemy leader, which is self-explanatory why you would include this in the deck. We have 2 Cursed Warriors, deploy an additional Cursed Warrior. So when you deploy 1 Cursed Warrior, you actually get 2, and we have 2 of that card, if that makes sense. Similarly, we have Cursed Hunters, deploy an additional Cursed Hunter. So one of these, you get 2 1/1 range units. This one, you get 2 2/1 melee units. And these are in here because they synergize really nicely with Mayhem. Mayhem, you randomly deal 1 damage for every friendly on the battlefield. And this is, a 1 cost that gets you 2 units on the battlefield. So that ups the damage of your Mayhem by 2. If you get 2 of these off, that's ups your damage by your Mayhem by 4. And Mayhem does include your leader in its count, so it's kind of ridiculous. We have Fire Imp that you can use just for 2 straight damage. Alternatively, you can use this to, clear something that maybe your opponent spawned that you don't want to deal with, such as a taunt unit. Fate, again, is used to deal damage to your leader and then, one other unit, basically. So Fate, I'm going to be using once my opponent summons one thing, basically. If they have 2 things one thing on the board and themselves, they'll get hit by the Fate and that unit will get hit by the Fate. If they start to summon more things, we can use Fate for clear, but ideally you're using it early on. On top of that, we have the Skadi Kaldr combo, and this is just a disgusting combo, and honestly, I expect this combo to get nerfed, because when Skadi is on the battlefield, Kaldr, who is a 2-cost minion, becomes a 3/4. So he goes from being a 2/2 to a 3/4. So effectively with this deck, you're going to be summoning a Skadi and trying to keep her safe so that you have super buff Kaldrs. And then we've got 2 Kaldrs in the deck. But also when you summon Skadi, you get a Kaldr card in your hand. And the other thing about Skadi is her ability, you can spam every turn. So you can deal 2 damage to an enemy and reduce their movement by 1 every turn. And you don't take return damage because it's an ability. And then not last but not least, we haven't covered Valhalla's Blessing, but we've also got a Frenzy in here. All friendlies gain +2/+0 until the end of this turn. So this is a kind of, once you got a lot of units on the board, click this and just hit them in the face. Now the last card, which I haven't mentioned yet, is Valhalla's Blessing. And Valhalla's Blessing is basically like filler. Valhalla's Blessing lets you spend 1 mana now, and then you draw a card that costs 1 mana less. So then you're spending 1 mana now to save 1 mana later. But ultimately, this is just in the card because we don't really need, 20 cards to win this game. Ideally, you'd actually have, fewer cards just so you could guarantee the draw of the ones that, combo well. So Valhalla's Blessing is literally just a filler card, and it's really useful in that respect. Anyway, let's hop into a game, and I'll kind of show you this in action, because this is a deck that I think a lot of people actually don't play very smart. Okay, so as you can see here, we're going up against a Ra. Now, Ra is usually all about, control, so this deck actually typically does quite well against him. Also, if they have Minion Recruiter, they don't normally pull anything particularly good. And you might think this is a good starting hand. You would be wrong. We are actually going to mulligan all of these. Because the deck is, so cheap in terms of mana cost, you actually want to try and find your more expensive cards during your mulligan, rather than your cheap cards. Stuff like your Surturs and your Skadis and that sort of thing. I mean, you only want your Cursed Hunters and Cursed Warriors really once you've got Mayhem in hand. Similarly, you don't want your Kaldrs really until you found, what's it called? Until you found Skadi, although you can use Kaldrs for other things. So we could silence him and stop him from healing, but at the moment he's got full health, so there's no point. We're just going to use our Valhalla's Blessing here. We don't want to summon a unit this turn because, we could use the Fire Imp to hit him, but Fire Imp is also insurance in case we need to kill something that he summons. And there's no point summoning Surtur because we're not in melee range, so we wouldn't be able to benefit from it now, and that would give him an opportunity to, try and clear it. Whereas this turn, you know, we want to come in close. And Stoof is actually playing this quite smart because he chose not to, you know, he chose not to attack you. He chose to stay kind of back. And what I imagine we'll see here is that he might, yeah, summon a Backstab in a slightly awkward spot for us to hit. Fortunately, you know, we have the clear on hand, so we're just going to clear that up. We can use the Fate to hit him and the Backstab, and then we can use the Fire Imp to take out the Backstab, and then we can hit him in the face, boop, for, you know, some nice damage. And I think, like, with Rush, people try and go too heavy on the early turns. Like, really, it's about turn, you know, 4 mana, 5 mana, when you can start playing, you know, both your Cursed Hunters and your Surtur and your Mayhem, and, you know, start comboing things. And interestingly, he's running what is this called? He is running some Taunt in this deck. So I think what we're going to do here is we'll get the Surtur out. We're actually also going to run the Cursed Hunters, like so. And we could Mayhem now. I actually think we will. I think we'll Mana Potion Mayhem, because this will deal 4 damage. First, what we're going to do is we're going to trade into this Chalfang, because if we trade into the Chalfang, then, you know, we're guaranteeing more damage onto Ra's face. And that's the Chalfang dead. And we can end our turn now. The main issue here is that our units are quite grouped, which means, like, if he has a stun or something in hand, you know, he can use that to his advantage. But ultimately, I think with the spread of our units, you know, we're in a pretty good position. If he doesn't clear much, we can then Mayhem again on the next turn and summon a second Surtur, which is, again, something he's going to have to deal with. The problem is that he's probably going to, you know, try and spawn Taunt, but because it's Egyptian, he doesn't have that much Taunt in his deck. The only cards he really has are the Chalfangs, or if he, you know, summons a unit and then applies Taunt to it. But what he really needs to do here is take out the Surtur, and you can see that's what he's realized, you know, his main objective has to be, because it's just doing, you know, way too much for me. You know, it was buffing all of these units, and he hasn't managed to clear them yet. And we've got Stereopes. Stereopes? I'm probably saying this wrong. Alright, what have we got in hand? We've got a Surtur and a Fate. I think, do we play the... So here's the question. If we do the Fate, we can actually clear the Stereopes quite easily. So I think what we'll do, we'll put the Surtur here. We'll cast the Fate. We'll use this range unit to take out Stereopes, or whatever his name is. We'll move this range unit next to the Surtur, and we'll attack Ra with that, even though it's going to take return and die. That's still fine. He's on 9 health, you know. Like, we're doing a pretty good job here of whittling down his health. And that's everything then played, so we'll end our turn. And, you know, now he's down to 7 health, and we've got 3 units on the board, which for control decks is really awkward to deal with, you know. It's something that they don't really want to happen. They're used to dealing with, you know, 1 unit at a time. But with this deck, you can kind of summon a lot. You'll see we don't have an awful lot of cards in hand. And that's where this could get kind of awkward. But ultimately, it's, you know, not the end of the world. And I'm guessing he's going to attack the Cursed Hunter with the Fire Imp. It would make the most sense, just to try and, you know, keep the damage off me. And we have Skadi. So, Skadi is something that he needs to try and get rid of. Hopefully, you know, because he's played his Execute, he doesn't have much in hand. But you'll notice that because we played Skadi, we then got Kaldr. So we can then pop Kaldr down here as well. And now that we have 3 units online, you know, I'm happy playing the Mayhem for 3 damage. Puts him down to, what, 4 health? And at this point, you know, we haven't drawn our Backstabs yet. And this would probably be, you know, a pretty good time to draw them. The one thing you want to notice here, which I hope that you do, is that... like I said, we mulliganed our Backstabs, and the reason you mulligan Backstabs is because they're kind of more useful because they're so cheap later on to guarantee that damage. The other thing is, if you use a Backstab early, your opponent is more likely to play carefully or to play passively. For example, you know, if I only have 5 health, you know, I'm less likely to hit you in the face than if I have 8 health, because when I have 8 health, you know, I feel a bit more strong. Similarly, you know, if I had 14 health, I'd be less likely to backstab you than if I had 4 health. This is unfortunate. I guess we probably should have put the Kaldr further back, but there wasn't anything we could do. It looks like he can't actually clear this. So this is actually pretty good, all things considered. You know, he's just summoned units and is trying to hold us at bay. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to work so well. What's the best way to do this? So I think we're going to have to use the Kaldr to clear this Taunt unit. Yeah, we'll use the Kaldr to clear this Taunt unit. We'll then banish we'll move to here. And we'll banish the Sobek, because I don't want him using the Sobek to control the board. And then we will end our turn. Unfortunately, you can't have 2 Scardies out at once. But yeah, so Backstab, you know, you hold off on it because, you know, people are going to play more cautiously if they have less health. So then I typically hold on to them until, you know, towards the end of the game where, you know, it's going to get me the win and it's going to net me the win. And I think that's a pretty good call, all things considered. So we're hoping he hasn't drawn anything, you know, super useful here. Like maybe Possession would be quite good. Although saying that, if he does draw Possession, you know, we can play our other Scardy, so that's okay. Assuming he takes the Scardy and not the Doge. I'd imagine he's just going to kill the Doge, though. We haven't played enough gods for him to actually use his, you know, Book of the Dead. And this is one of the other reasons this deck goes really well against control. If you watch my control video, you'll notice we run Book of the Dead, and that allows us to summon, like, a butt ton of gods. But you can only summon those gods if they're in the graveyard. And currently there's 1 god in the graveyard, and that's Backstab. So this is alright. This is alright. The other thing we know is he doesn't have any more Chelfangs, so we don't have to deal with those. And you can see he's trying to figure out, you know, how he can possibly survive this, especially if we draw our Backstab. 2 of these 9 cards are Backstab. You know, we have more than a 20% chance of drawing them. So we're in a fairly nice position, all things told. Okay, so this really, it just depends on what we draw here as to how this game goes. We don't want him to take control of the game, and that's what he's trying to do here. Fortunately, we got Valhalla's Blessing, which we can siphon off, and oh, it's a Kaldr. That's awkward. Never mind. We'll bring this over here. We'll summon the Kaldr. This is just basically stalling at this point. We will come over here and attack this. We will banish the Anubis and end our turn. So this is why Freya comes into her own, is when you can utilize that banish just to, you know, negate the gods that he has summoned, because he can't do anything with the Anubis while it's banished, and I can banish every single turn. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, we're just buying ourselves a little bit of time here. I mean, he can use a Sobek to maybe hit the Scardy, but it's not going to be that useful for him. And if he does kill my Scardy, which is, you know, his goal, because this thing has got a lot of damage, I've got another one. Though ultimately, even if he kills the Scardy, if he doesn't then kill the Kaldr as well, he's dead, because he has 3 health, and I have, you know, more than 3 damage, basically. So now we have 7 cards left, and 2 of them are Backstabs. We'll see what happens. I'm trying to think what else is in here. Another Kaldr. And it looks like he's just trying to take out the Kaldr. But the problem with doing that is that, you know, I can then range attack him with Scardy. So, you know, he has to take out both. I mean, maybe this is an Execute or a Phantom Grasp or something, and he's lucky, but he's still, you know, not really got the damage. He can run away from the Kaldr and hit it, and then, you know, trade Sobek into it, I guess. It really depends what he has in hand. But even then, he's still, you know, trying to buy time until I draw my Backstab. And you can see he's surrendered. So there's the Norse rush strategy. And that match actually went on, you know, fairly long. I mean, Stoof is a decent player, but we had the upper hand there because, you know, we were able to kind of control the map. We'll jump into another game, and I'll hopefully be able to show you this deck once more, maybe with Backstabs this time. Okay, we've got our second match here, and this is the Rush Mirror. Okay, this is fine. Again, we're gonna... I mean, we could play both Curse Warriors and Mayhem for 3 damage, but I think what we're going to do is just mulligan everything. Again, like I say, it's better to try and find those slightly higher cost cards early on, because they are useful. Unfortunately, we've got both of our Backstabs, which we don't really need now. What is the range on my banish? Do I have to be adjacent? No, I can just banish her. Oh, I can't use it on the leader. Feels bad. Feels bad. I feel like a scrub. Ah, this is awkward. I mean... we may as well just use our Backstabs going into the Freya matchup. I know I said previously hold them, but Freya's, they can't easily heal, and, like, she is going to want to trade health with me. So, you know, we may as well use these now, because we have the mana to do it. So we'll just do that, and then end our turn. And that's given us a 6 health advantage already, which means, you know, she might be less likely to try and hit me in the face. Apparently not. Apparently she just don't care. She's played Gugnir's Might. You can see she's got bonus damage. That is a card you can play in this deck, though I typically don't. Even though, you know, when we trade here, you know, she's getting a net advantage. And because of that, we're actually not going to trade right now, because she's going to try and rush me down as well. So we may as well hold off on this and make our lives a little bit easier. On the next turn, we can actually summon 2 Kaldrs. Oh, I should have summoned that there. That was poor positioning on my part. I summoned it somewhere where she could target it, and that was silly. I should have summoned it in a different position. Never mind. And end our turn. Mistakes have been made, you guys. Mistakes have been made. Forge a Norse item. I wonder what she forged. I guess you can pick your item when you do that. The good news is we have Frenzy in hand, so if she doesn't clear these, you know, we've got another 2 to 4, up to 6 damage this turn. I mean, I'd imagine she'll clear it. I don't think she'll try and rush me in the face, although this is the mistake that a lot of players do make. Ideally, what happens here is we draw a Skadi, and she used Sunder. But yeah, ideally we draw a Skadi, right, and then buff our Kaldrs and then buff them some more. But it is what it is. Is she gonna leave it? She's gonna leave it. Crazy talk, crazy talk. So we can get 4 damage off with the Kaldr, and a bunch of damage off with me as well. There's the Mayhem. Oh, unfortunate luck on the Mayhem. This person is doing a really good job of trying to control the fight, to be honest. Like, it's pretty good. I'm down to 14 health. Ugh. Okay, so we'll clear out this Cursed Warrior. We'll then make, like, our own Cursed Warrior wall. And you can actually use the Fire Imp as a blockade, which is what we're going to do here, rather than trading it into something. It might just be worth, you know, using it to keep her away from me. Although I could actually use it to take out this warrior, which I might do, so we have, you know, board control. She's only got 1 card in hand, so this could go either way. There was a little bit of dumb positioning on my part with my Skadi, which made it easy for her to kill it, though I think she had Sunder in hand anyway, so it wasn't going to do super well. And you can see she's just trying to, you know, rush me down in the face. But this is risky because I've got this Frenzy in hand, which allows me to output, what, an extra 6 damage this turn? See what we get. Mayhem. Okay, so we're going to pop Mayhem for sure. This will deal, what, 3 to her? And then we can pop Frenzy. And because she didn't clear the minions like I did, choppy, 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 and she's dead. And that was actually, you know, I misplayed that one a little bit. I definitely could have done a better job, especially with my Skadi positioning. And you can see, though, that even with Gugnir's Might, she wasn't clearing the minions. And that's something you actually need to be a little bit careful of in this mirror, because, you know, people can just pop Frenzy and chop you up. And that's why I did focus on clearing her minions and not let her have a minion, because it just seemed like the smarter decision. And with the Mayhem combined there with the Frenzy, that was pretty nasty. But yeah, that's basically Rush Norse. You can see in the mirror match, you might want to be a little bit more careful with your health. But, you know, you can be a bit more free with it in the Ra matchup or in the Norse matchup. Not Norse matchup, sorry, the Greek matchup. Saying that, you know, you can outplay Rush. It's definitely possible. You just need to be a little bit tactical, and you need to conserve your health. Like, so many players, you know, they go into a Norse match and they're just like, oh, I don't need health. It's fine. I'll just like hit this person in the face. And it's like, no. If I'm going against Norse, the one thing I need to do is stall out the game until, you know, it gets to mid to late game when I can start to summon my more powerful units and get control of the map. So when I'm playing that matchup, you can guarantee that my leader's health is of utmost priority. You know, in Norse, in Egyptian, I'm constantly, you know, using Ra's ability to heal myself and keep myself alive. In Greek, I'm utilizing taunts and using Aphrodite to keep myself alive. Also, Geb works really nicely in Egyptian. And it is definitely a matchup that you can win. But saying that, it's also a very, very easy deck to play. Just, you know, be a little bit smart about your mulligan. Look for those higher cost cards, because having them in your hand is, you know, more useful. Because anything you draw that's low cost, you can play straight away, right? Whereas high cost stuff, it's useful to have early so that you can plan around it. But yeah, this has been a Smite Tactics video. I have been Jaggerus. So if you like this video, maybe hit that thumbs up button, and you can always subscribe to the channel. Beyond that, you know, you can find me on Twitter @Jaggerus, or on Twitch, live streaming both this and Gwent, twitch.tv/Jaggerus. And I've also started a Gwent series up on the channel, so if you don't know about Gwent or you're interested in finding out about it, maybe check out that video too. Beyond that, thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!